Hello everyone, it is Abby from the Blue Barnet. I am here today to show you a tutorial for how to make this interchangeable seasonal sign with all of these 4 pieces. So once again, if you're unfamiliar, I do these DIY kits. They are available on my website, bbpaintstudio.com, and they come with everything that you need to make a beautiful wooden craft. When you receive your kit in the mail, it's going to be in a box. The first step is just going to be to remove the contents from the box and get everything a little bit more organized. You're going to see all of the materials you need to do this project are here. This round is 12 inches, so it's a little bit smaller. It makes it a nice size to be able to hang anywhere in your house. It is already painted, already has these palette lines, and already has this Velcro attached. These are all your laser cut pieces. These will all have Velcro on the back ready to go as well. The letters that go on these pieces, we will get there eventually, but for now they are all in this bag just so that you don't lose any of them. So we're just going to set that aside for now. We're going to start by just painting this hello. You can see that there are a lot of colors in these paint pods. If you have scissors and a paper plate, my recommendation is to just take your scissors and cut these pods apart so that you're dealing with an individual pod rather than the whole thing together. And then as you need the color, you can dump the whole pod out onto this paper plate. We're going to be using this gray color first, so I dumped the gray pod out onto the plate, and now I'm going to grab one of the makeup sponges. I like to hold the sponge by the pointy end and use the flat end to dab. So you're just going to dip it into the paint, and you do not need a lot. Otherwise, it's just going to be messy and like ooze over the sides. So light coats of paint are your friend. Then you're just going to dab the color on just up and down. You don't want to paint it on or swipe it on just because this will help keep it from getting on these edges. Now that that's complete, we're just going to set it aside and wait for it to dry. Now I'm going to grab this popsicle piece and this brush. You are going to need a water cup to rinse your brush out between each color. This is the only one that we're going to be painting with a brush, and the rest we're actually going to be doing some blending, so we're going to use a makeup sponge for that one. Since I can dip my brush right in the pods, I'm just going to do that rather than dumping them on the plate. So I'm going to start by just applying one light coat to each of these. You can look to my sample to see what order I did the colors in, but they can honestly be in whatever color order that you choose. You do want to remember that I do not have a color for these sticks or this piece in between, so I'm not going to paint those at all. So just remember that moving forward. Also, you want to be cautious of the sides. It always looks cleaner when these sides don't have any extra paint on them. If you do happen to get paint on them, you should be able to just like kind of wipe it away with your finger if you do it quickly before it dries. So now that this is one coat, they'll probably each need 2. So I'm going to do 1 on all of them, and then by the time I finish, I should be able to come back to the beginning and start and go through one more time. This is one completed first coat. As you can see, like lighter colors tend to need more coats than darker colors. Like this peach, for instance, did not cover nearly as well as like this blue did. That's totally fine. If yours looks like this, if it looks streaky, don't worry about it. That is what a good light coat should look like. It'll cover much better with a second coat. Here is 2 coats. You can see it's much more solid and vibrant. There are some spots here you can see in this green that are like darker and lighter. That's fine. That's going to be like that until it dries. It will get less streaky when it's fully dry. So for now, you can just set this piece aside, and the next thing we're going to get in front of us are the leaves. On this fall piece, you can see that there are a blending of colors here. I'm going to show you how to do that. so you don't have to be scared. We're going to start by using another one of your makeup sponges and doing the whole piece just orange. So just orange for now. This is just one coat, and it actually covered really well with just one coat. So next, we're going to get some red. So using the same sponge that you used for the orange, you're going to go in and dip just a little bit of red. And you do want to make sure that you are using the same sponge because they are going to start to blend together on the sponge automatically. And then you're just going to go into these leaves and just start doing the left hand side of each of them. As you start to do the left hand side of these, when you have the heaviest amount of paint on your sponge, that's when you want to do the side closest to the edge. And then as there gets to be less and less paint on your sponge, that's when you're going to want to move to the middle to get more of like a blend effect. So in your kit, you had 2 sponges. So far we've used them for the orange and the red, and then the gray for the hello. I will just take a pair of scissors and I will just trim this like this, and then I'll do the same for the gray. And so next up is these flowers. I have this peach color and this like coral color that I dumped out on the tray. Now we have already used these for the popsicle pieces. So we're gonna start by doing the same thing that we did for the leaves. Sorry, my video cut off. The same thing we did with the leaves with just one solid coat of this peach color on the whole thing. So just like the popsicles, having a harder time getting full coverage using this lighter color, that does not mean that we gob more on. That just means that we do one light coat, wait for it to dry a little bit, and then go back and do a second. So now after 2 coats, it's looking good. Now I'm going to go in and get some of this like coral color, and just like before how we did with the red, we're going to go in on this left side, and when you have the heaviest amount is when you're farthest to the edge, and then as you get less paint on your sponge is when you move toward the middle. So just the same exact way as before, and that gives you that nice gradient. So now I'm just going to move on to this next one and do the same thing. Heaviest amount on my sponge, and then as it gets to be less, move toward the middle, just like that. Okay, so now this piece is complete. I'm going to set it aside with the others, and last but not least, we're going to do the mittens. So now the final color for this is going to be the blue, and then this sage green. We use these for the popsicles as well. So we're going to get started by doing dark blue on the whole thing. So there's my first coat, and I got full coverage perfectly with just one coat. As you can see, I didn't even skip the top of these. I just did those dark blue too. And now again, using the same sponge, I'm going to dip a little into the sage green, and I'm just going to do the very, very edge of these mittens. Oops, sorry. The very edge of these mittens. There's not a lot on my sponge, and then I'm going to move toward the middle. By now you know the drill. Doing it on each of these mittens gives it like a separation between the two, just like the flowers did. So again, you can go along the whole side. Just like that. Okay, so now I'm going to do that on all the rest of these mittens. Okay, so there they are completed. Now I'm just going to take that same sponge using the sage green color, and then just go in just like this to do the very top of the mittens. Now it's important here that you don't gob on the paint, because if you do, it's going to fill in all these little lines, like all the cracks that make it look like the top of a mitten. So you just want to do it like very, very lightly, very powdery, so that you can still see all of those. If you start gobbing it on, then it's just going to fill in the cracks and it'll just look like a big blob. Okay, so just very lightly on all the tops of the mittens. Okay, so here are all of your pieces, all the 3D cutouts, totally complete, all painted. The next thing we're going to do is get these letters in front of us. Just open the bag and dump them out and get them all in front of you. Okay, so here they are. I turned them all right side up. And then the next thing you're going to do, they spell winter, spring, summer, and fall. You're going to group them by their words. So there are some that are a different size, you can see. That's just so they can fit on the specific piece. So when you group them together, you want to obviously make sure that they're the same size as well. So here it is. They are grouped by their corresponding season and size. And now I'm going to show you a trick that's going to make you very, very happy. Okay, so quick backstory. When I lasered these items, I put a masking, basically like masking tape, but it's masking paper over the top of the whole thing. And that way, when it cuts out, I can peel the masking off and it's nice and clean. It's not charred underneath. So when I did that with these pieces, I painted the whole board white and then I masked it and then I cut these letters out. Okay, so whoopee, what does that mean? That means that these pieces, this part that's on top of them, that is all masking, and underneath it is already painted white for you. Okay, and it's nice, crisp, clean, beautiful white. So you just have to peel the masking off all of these pieces and then they will look like this. So chances are your nails are a little bit nicer than mine, but if you can't peel this off with just your bare nails, like if you have like long tips or acrylic nails, there is a toothpick in the kit for you, and that's what this is for, is just to get you started, like peeling up an edge, and then once it's up like this, then you can peel it the rest of the way. So I just peeled the masking off of all of these letters, and now everything is complete, and the only thing we have left to do is glue everything into place. So you have a paint pod labeled glue, and you have a Q-tip. That's how you're going to apply the glue. Just dip this Q-tip in the glue, apply it to the back of each piece, and then set it down on there. Once the pieces have glue on it and you're setting them down, you want to make sure that you set it and leave it. Let the glue do its thing without pushing it down, because then it'll ooze out the sides. So I just finished gluing down all the letters on these. The glue does require some dry time. It's not a lot. It will dry relatively quickly, but as it's drying, you do want to keep these flat. Now we're just going to glue on this hello, and then we will be all finished. For placement of this hello, I just kind of went right in the center of like this palette section and this palette section. This end of this L in the hello is just about 1/2 inch from the second palette line. You just want to make sure that you're not putting it too low where it's going to interfere with these pieces that you put on here. Once it's glued down and just given a few minutes to dry, then you can start testing out all of these pieces on the Velcro. And that concludes the video tutorial for this project. Thank you so much for buying the DIY kit. I hope you had so much fun making it. If you're not already following me on Facebook or Instagram at the Blue Barnett, that is where I will keep you updated on new DIY kits as they come out. So as always, thank you for supporting small business. I really appreciate it, and so does my family. Have a good one.